The Sunoco station sat at the intersection of Route 12 and the county road, the last stop for gas before the hills swallowed the highway and didn't spit it back out for 40 miles. It was the kind of place that time had forgotten. 2 pumps, a single garage bay, and a convenience store that sold cigarettes, lottery tickets, and sandwiches wrapped in plastic that nobody ever bought. A hand-painted sign above the door read, "Becker's Gas and Service," though old man Becker had been dead for 15 years, and his daughter ran the place now. It was a Saturday afternoon in late September, the kind of day when the summer heat was finally breaking and the leaves were just starting to think about turning. The sky was a clean blue, and the air smelled like cut grass and motor oil, and the world felt suspended between seasons, waiting to see which way it would fall. Lily Marsden was 13 years old. She had her mother's dark hair and her father's stubborn chin, and she had been in a wheelchair since she was 7, when a drunk driver ran a red light and changed everything. She didn't remember much about the accident, just the sound of screeching tires, the smell of gasoline, and then waking up in a hospital room with her legs wrapped in bandages and a doctor explaining very gently that she would never walk again. 6 years later, she had learned to live with it. She had learned to wheel herself up ramps and navigate curbs and ignore the stares of people who didn't know how to look at a child in a wheelchair. She had learned to be strong because the alternative was to be broken, and Lily Marsden had decided a long time ago that she was not going to break. Her mother, Dana, pulled their old Honda Civic into the Sunoco station and parked beside the pump. The fuel light had been on for 10 miles, and Dana had been holding her breath, praying they'd make it. Money was tight. It was always tight, and she'd been putting off filling the tank until payday, which was still 3 days away. But they needed groceries, and the grocery store was in town, and town was 20 miles down the road, so here they were. "Stay in the car, baby," Dana said, unbuckling her seatbelt. "I'll just be a minute." "I want to come in," Lily said. "I need to use the bathroom." Dana hesitated. The Sunoco bathroom was around the side of the building, accessible through a heavy door that was hard to manage, even for someone with 2 working legs. But Lily had that look on her face, the one that said she was going to do this whether anyone helped her or not, so Dana nodded and got out to retrieve the wheelchair from the trunk. They were halfway across the parking lot when the black Mercedes pulled in. It was the kind of car that didn't belong in a place like this, sleek and polished, with tinted windows and chrome accents that caught the sunlight like jewelry. The driver's door opened, and a man stepped out. He was maybe 50, with silver hair combed back from a tanned face and a suit that probably cost more than Dana's car. He moved with the easy confidence of someone who had never been told no, who had never had to count the days until payday, who had never prayed over a gas gauge. He didn't look at Dana or Lily. He walked past them like they weren't there, heading for the convenience store with his phone pressed to his ear, already talking to someone more important than anyone in this parking lot would ever be. Dana finished helping Lily into her wheelchair and pushed her toward the side of the building. The bathroom door was propped open with a brick, a small kindness from whoever had been there before, and Dana held it while Lily wheeled herself inside. "I'll wait right here," Dana said. "Take your time." She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes, letting the sun warm her face. It had been a long week, a long year, really. Working double shifts at the diner, trying to keep up with Lily's medical bills, trying to be enough for a daughter who deserved so much more than she could give. Some days it felt like she was running on empty, just like the car. The bathroom door opened and Lily wheeled herself out. She was smiling, that bright, defiant smile that Dana loved more than anything in the world. "All good?" Dana asked. "All good." They started back toward the car. Dana was digging in her purse for her debit card, mentally calculating whether she could afford to fill the tank or just put in $10 when the man in the suit came out of the convenience store. He was still on his phone, still talking in that loud, self-important voice that carried across the parking lot. He walked toward his Mercedes without looking where he was going, and he nearly collided with Lily's wheelchair. "Jesus Christ," he said, stepping back like he'd encountered something unpleasant. He looked down at Lily, and his lip curled. "Watch where you're going." "She was watching," Dana said, her voice tight. "You weren't." The man's eyes flicked to her, dismissed her, and returned to Lily. He was still holding his phone, but he'd lowered it from his ear. Something ugly moved across his face, Not anger, exactly, but contempt. The kind of contempt that came from looking at someone and deciding they didn't matter. "Maybe if she could walk, she'd be easier to see," he said. The words hung in the air like smoke. Dana felt them land in her chest, sharp and cold. Beside her, Lily had gone very still, her hands frozen on the wheels of her chair. "What did you say?" Dana's voice was barely a whisper. The man smiled. It was the smile of someone who knew he could say whatever he wanted, do whatever he wanted, because money was a shield that made him untouchable. "I said maybe you should keep your crippled kid out of the way. Some of us have places to be." Dana opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She was shaking, with anger, with humiliation, with the helpless fury of a mother who couldn't protect her child from cruelty. She wanted to scream at him, to hit him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain he had just inflicted. But she didn't. She couldn't. Because women like her didn't get to make scenes, didn't get to fight back, didn't get to win against men like him. Lily spoke first. "My legs don't work," she said. Her voice clear and steady. "But there's nothing wrong with my ears, and you're the meanest person I've ever met." The man laughed. Actually laughed, like a 13-year-old girl in a wheelchair had just told him a joke. "Cute," he said. "Real cute." He turned back toward his car, already lifting his phone to his ear again. "Learn some manners, kid. The world's not going to feel sorry for you forever." He didn't see the motorcycles. They had pulled in while he was talking, a convoy of 20 bikes that had rolled up to the pumps on the other side of the lot. The riders were dismounting now, stretching road-stiff limbs, pulling off helmets to reveal weathered faces and hard eyes. They wore leather jackets with patches on the back, a horseman carrying a shepherd's crook above the words Iron Horseman MC, and they had heard everything. The man in the suit didn't notice them until he was almost to his Mercedes. Then he looked up, and he saw 20 bikers standing in a loose semicircle between him and his car. They weren't moving. They weren't speaking. They were just watching him with the kind of calm, patient attention that predators give to prey. He stopped walking. His phone hand dropped to his side. "Can I help you?" His voice had lost some of its polish. One of the bikers stepped forward. He was older than the others, maybe 60, with a gray beard and eyes the color of slate. He moved slowly, deliberately, like a man who had all the time in the world. "That little girl," he said, nodding toward Lily. "You got something you want to say to her?" The man in the suit looked at the biker, then at the 19 others standing behind him. His face had gone pale beneath the tan. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah," the biker said. "You do." He took another step forward, and the man in the suit took a step back. The Mercedes was right there, close enough to touch, but it might as well have been on the moon. "I think," the biker said quietly, "you owe that girl an apology." Dana stood frozen, her hand on Lily's shoulder. She didn't know who these men were or why they had intervened. She only knew that for the first time since the man had opened his mouth, she didn't feel alone. Lily looked up at the biker, then at the man in the suit, then back at the biker. And despite everything, despite the cruel words and the humiliation and the tears she was fighting to hold back, she smiled. Because sometimes when the world knocked you down, it also sent someone to help you back up. And today, it had sent 20 of them. The parking lot had gone quiet. Even the traffic on Route 12 seemed to have faded, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The man in the suit stood with his back almost touching his Mercedes, his eyes darting between the bikers like a cornered animal calculating escape routes that didn't exist. The older biker, the one with the gray beard and the slate-colored eyes, stood a few feet away, arms loose at his sides, waiting. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't made a threat. He didn't need to. His presence alone was enough. "I'm not going to ask again," he said. "Apologize to the girl." The man in the suit swallowed. His phone was still in his hand, but he'd forgotten about it. The call had disconnected minutes ago. "Look," he said, his voice tight, "I don't want any trouble. It was a joke. I didn't mean anything by it." "A joke?" The biker's voice was flat. "You called a 13-year-old girl a cripple. You told her mother to keep her out of the way. You laughed in her face." He paused. "That funny to you?" "I said I didn't mean it." "Then it should be easy to apologize." The silence stretched. Dana could feel Lily trembling under her hand. Not with fear, she realized, but with something else. Anticipation, maybe, or hope. The hope that comes when you've been knocked down so many times you've stopped expecting anyone to help you up, and then suddenly, impossibly, someone does. The man in the suit looked at the bikers again. 20 faces, hard and unreadable. 20 men who had nothing to gain from this confrontation except the satisfaction of watching a bully squirm. He was outnumbered, outmatched, and for perhaps the first time in his life, his money couldn't buy him a way out. "Fine," he said. The word came out like it was being dragged over broken glass. He turned toward Lily, but he didn't look at her, not really. His eyes fixed somewhere above her head, as if making eye contact with his child in a wheelchair was beneath him even now. "I'm sorry," he said, "for what I said. It was wrong." The words were hollow, emptied of everything except resentment. Dana felt her jaw tighten. It wasn't enough. It wasn't close to enough. But Lily spoke before she could. "You're not sorry," Lily said. Her voice was calm, steady, older than her 13 years. "You're scared. That's not the same thing." The man's face flushed. For a moment, something dangerous flickered in his eyes, the wounded pride of a man who wasn't used to being spoken to like that, especially by a child. But he glanced at the bikers and swallowed whatever response he'd been about to make. "I said I was sorry," he repeated. "What more do you want?" The older biker stepped forward again. This time he moved past the man in the suit, ignoring him entirely, and walked over to where Lily sat in her wheelchair. He crouched down so they were at eye level, his knees creaking with the effort, and he looked at her with an expression that was nothing like the cold contempt he'd shown the man in the suit. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily." "Lily." He nodded like the name meant something. "I'm Shepard. These are my brothers." He gestured to the bikers behind him. "We ride together. Look out for each other. It's what we do." Lily glanced at the men, then back at Shepard. "Why did you help me?" "Because what he said was wrong, and because nobody should have to stand alone against that kind of cruelty." He paused. "You handled yourself well, Lily. Better than most adults would have. That took guts." Lily's chin lifted just slightly. "My mom says I'm stubborn." "Stubborn's good. Stubborn keeps you going when the world tries to knock you down." Shepard smiled, and the hardness in his face softened. "Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you're less than you are. You understand? Not him, not anyone." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a card, simple, white, with a phone number and the Iron Horseman logo. He pressed it into Lily's hand. "You or your mom ever need anything, you call that number. Day or night. Someone will answer." Lily looked at the card, then at her mother, then back at Shepard. "Why would you do that? You don't even know us." "Don't need to know you," Shepard said. "I know enough." He stood, his knees popping, and turned to face the man in the suit. The man had edged closer to his Mercedes, his hand on the door handle. He looked like he was ready to bolt the moment he got the chance. "One more thing," Shepard said. His voice had gone cold again, all the warmth he'd shown Lily vanishing like smoke. "I know who you are. I saw your plates. I've got friends who can find out where you live, where you work, where your kids go to school." The man's face went white. "Is that a threat?" "It's information." Shepard took a step closer. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get in your car and drive away. You're going to think about what you said to that little girl. And you're going to think about how it felt to have someone bigger and stronger than you make you feel small. And maybe, you'll learn something from it." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But if I ever hear that you've treated anyone like that again, a kid, a disabled person, anyone who can't fight back, I will find you. And the next conversation we have won't be as polite as this one." The man didn't say anything. He yanked open the door of his Mercedes, threw himself into the driver's seat, and started the engine. Tires squealed as he backed out of the parking spot, and then he was gone, the black car disappearing down Route 12 like it was being chased by something it couldn't outrun. The parking lot was quiet again. The bikers watched the Mercedes until it vanished around the bend, and then, slowly, they began to relax. A few of them laughed, not cruel laughter, but the relieved laughter of tension breaking. One of them clapped Shepard on the shoulder and said something Dana couldn't hear. Shepard walked back to where Dana and Lily were standing. Dana realized she was crying. She didn't know when. She'd started, and she wiped her face with the back of her hand, embarrassed. "Thank you," she said. Her voice cracked. "I don't know how to... You don't have to explain." Shepard's voice was gentle. "Some people think money gives them the right to treat others like dirt. It doesn't. And sometimes they need to be reminded of that." He looked at Lily, who was still holding the card he'd given her. "You did good today, Lily. Don't forget that." Dana put her hand on her daughter's shoulder, feeling the tension there slowly beginning to release. "We should go," she said. "We still need to get groceries." She started to push Lily's wheelchair toward the car, but Shepard held up a hand. "Hold on. You came here to get gas, right?" Dana nodded, suddenly aware again of the nearly empty tank, the debit card in her purse, the careful calculations she'd been doing in her head. Shepard turned to one of the other bikers, a younger man with tattoos crawling up his neck and arms like sleeves of ink. "Tiny, fill her up." "I can't let you do that," Dana said quickly. "We can pay—" "I know you can." Shepard's voice was firm but kind. "But today you're not going to. Consider it a gift. For Lily." Dana opened her mouth to argue, but Lily tugged at her sleeve. "Mom," she said quietly, "it's okay." Dana looked at her daughter, at the card clutched in her small hand, at the set of her jaw, at the quiet strength that had gotten them through 6 years of hospital visits and physical therapy and strangers who stared and didn't understand. Lily was smiling, not the bright, defiant smile Dana knew so well, but something softer, something like peace. "Okay," Dana said. "Thank you." Tiny filled the tank while the other bikers gathered around their motorcycles, talking in low voices. Dana stood beside her car with her arm around Lily's shoulders, watching these strangers who had appeared out of nowhere and changed everything. When the tank was full, Shepard came over one last time. "That card's got my direct number on it," he said. "I meant what I said. Anything you need, anytime. We take care of our own." "We're not your own," Dana said. "We're just... You are now." Shepard smiled. "That's how it works. Kindness makes family out of strangers. You showed that girl of yours how to stand tall when someone tried to tear her down. That makes you one of us." He reached out and shook Dana's hand, then crouched down one more time to meet Lily's eyes. "Keep being stubborn," he said. "The world needs more people like you." Then he stood, walked back to his motorcycle, and swung a leg over the seat. The other bikers did the same, engines rumbling to life in a ragged chorus. One by one, they pulled out of the parking lot, 20 bikes forming a loose column that rumbled down Route 12 toward the hills. Dana and Lily watched them go until the sound of the engines faded into silence. "Mom?" Lily said. "Yeah, baby?" "That was the weirdest thing that's ever happened to us." Dana laughed, a real laugh, surprised out of her by the absurdity of it all. "Yeah," she said. "It really was." She helped Lily back into the car, folded the wheelchair into the trunk, and slid behind the wheel. The gas gauge read full for the first time in months. The card from Shepard was tucked into Lily's pocket, safe and sound. They still needed groceries. They still had bills to pay and miles to drive and 1,000 small struggles waiting for them at home. But something had shifted. Something had cracked open and let the light in. Dana started the car and pulled out of the Sunoco station, and as she drove toward town, she realized she was still smiling. Sometimes the world was cruel. Sometimes it was hard. But sometimes, when you least expected it, 20 strangers on motorcycles showed up and reminded you that you weren't alone. And that was enough to keep going. The story spread the way stories do in small towns, slowly at first, then all at once. By Sunday evening, half the county had heard some version of what had happened at the Sunoco station. A rich man in a fancy car, a little girl in a wheelchair, 20 bikers who appeared out of nowhere and made things right. The details shifted with each telling. Some versions had 50 bikers. Others had the man in the suit crying and begging for forgiveness. A few claimed there had been a fistfight, though there hadn't been anything of the sort. But the core of the story stayed the same. Someone had been cruel to Lily Marsden, and strangers had stood up for her when nobody else would. Dana heard the whispers when she went to work on Monday. The diner was busier than usual, and she caught customers glancing at her, talking behind their menus. A few of them asked her directly, and she told them the truth, or as much of it as she could put into words. Most of them listened with wide eyes and shook their heads in amazement. A couple of the older women teared up. "Those bikers," said Ruthie, the diner's owner, wiping down the counter with a rag that had seen better days. "Who would have thought?" "Not me," Dana admitted. "I thought they were going to make things worse, but they didn't. They made things better." "Sometimes the people who look the roughest have the softest hearts," Ruthie said. "My daddy used to say that. He was a trucker, knew all kinds of folks on the road." She paused. "How's Lily doing?" "She's okay. Better than okay, actually. She hasn't stopped talking about it." That was true. Lily had recounted the story a dozen times over the weekend, to her grandmother on the phone, to her best friend Marcy, to anyone who would listen. But it wasn't just the confrontation she talked about, it was Shepard. The way he'd crouched down to look her in the eye, the way he'd told her she'd done good, the way he'd made her feel like she mattered. "He said I was stubborn," Lily had told Dana that night, lying in bed with the card from Shepard on her nightstand, like it was a compliment. "It is a compliment," Dana had said. "Coming from him, anyway." Lily had smiled at that, a real smile, the kind Dana hadn't seen enough of lately, and closed her eyes. She'd fallen asleep faster than she had in months. On Tuesday, a package arrived at their apartment. It was waiting on the doorstep when Dana got home from work, a plain cardboard box with no return address. She carried it inside and set it on the kitchen table, eyeing it with suspicion. They didn't get packages. They couldn't afford to order things online, and nobody sent them gifts. "What is it?" Lily asked, wheeling herself over from the living room. "I don't know. It doesn't say who it's from." Dana got a knife and cut the tape. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a leather jacket. It was small, child-sized, with soft lining and sturdy zippers, and a patch sewn onto the back. The patch showed a horseman carrying a shepherd's crook, and beneath it, embroidered in gold thread, were the words, "Honorary Member." Lily's breath caught. There was a note tucked into the jacket's pocket. Dana unfolded it and read aloud, "Lily, every member of the Iron Horsemen earns their patch. You earned yours the day you stood up to that man and told him he was the meanest person you'd ever met. That took courage. Welcome to the family." Shepard. Dana looked at her daughter. Lily was staring at the jacket like it was made of gold, her eyes bright with tears she was trying not to let fall. "Mom," she whispered, "is this real?" "It's real, baby." Lily reached out and touched the leather, tracing the patch with her fingertips. Then she lifted the jacket out of the box and held it up, examining it from every angle. "Can I put it on?" "Of course you can." Dana helped her slip her arms into the sleeves. The jacket fit perfectly. Someone had guessed her size exactly right. And when Lily looked down at herself, wearing the leather and the patch and the gold embroidery, something shifted in her face. The uncertainty that had lived there since the accident, the quiet question of whether she belonged in a world that wasn't built for her, seemed to fade. In its place was something stronger, something sure. "I look like a biker," Lily said. Dana laughed, blinking back her own tears. "You look like a warrior." The phone rang that evening. Dana answered it, expecting a telemarketer or maybe her mother calling to check in. Instead, she heard a voice she recognized, low and rough, like gravel turning under a slow wheel. "Mrs. Marsden? This is Shepard. I wanted to make sure the package arrived." Dana looked at Lily, who was still wearing the jacket and refused to take it off even for dinner. "It arrived," she said. "I don't know how to thank you. Lily hasn't stopped smiling since she put it on." "That's thanks enough." There was a pause. "I also wanted to let you know, we did some asking around about that man from the gas station. His name is Bradley Vance. He's a real estate developer out of the city. Big money, lots of connections. The kind of man who's used to getting his way." Dana's stomach tightened. "Is he going to be a problem?" "No." Shepard's voice was flat, certain. "He won't. We had a conversation with some people who know him. Made it clear that if he ever bothers you or Lily again, there will be consequences. He understood." Dana didn't ask what kind of consequences. She didn't want to know. What she wanted was to believe that the man who had humiliated her daughter would never cross their path again, and Shepard was offering her that belief. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. I still don't understand why you're doing all this." Shepard was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice had softened. "I had a daughter once. She died when she was 16. Car accident, same as what happened to Lily." He paused. She was stubborn, too. Strongest person I ever knew. After she passed, I made a promise to myself that I'd look out for kids like her, kids who've been dealt a hard hand and keep fighting anyway. Lily reminds me of her. That's why. Dana felt her throat tighten. I'm sorry. About your daughter. Me too. Another pause. But she taught me something. She taught me that strength isn't about what your body can do. It's about what your spirit refuses to give up on. Lily's got that kind of strength. I saw it the moment she looked that man in the eye and told him the truth about himself. Dana looked at her daughter again, at the jacket, at the smile, at the fierce light in her eyes. She does, she said. She really does. Take care of her, Mrs. Marsden, and remember, you're not alone anymore. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, we're here. The line went dead. Dana set the phone down and stood in the kitchen for a long moment, processing everything she'd just heard. A stranger had lost his daughter and turned his grief into purpose. A group of bikers had made it their mission to protect the vulnerable, and somehow, through a random encounter at a gas station, she and Lily had become part of something bigger than themselves. Mom? Lily called from the living room. Who was that? Dana walked to the doorway and leaned against the frame, watching her daughter. Lily was sitting in her wheelchair, the leather jacket zipped up to her chin, the TV playing some show she wasn't really watching. She looked small and fierce and impossibly brave. That was Shepard, Dana said. He wanted to check on you. Lily smiled. Tell him I said thank you for the jacket and for everything else. I will, baby. Dana crossed the room and knelt beside the wheelchair, taking Lily's hand. I will. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Somewhere on the highway, engines rumbled as riders made their way home from wherever the road had taken them, and in a small apartment on the edge of town, a mother and daughter sat together, wrapped in the knowledge that the world was bigger and kinder than they had ever imagined. It had taken a cruel man and 20 strangers to show them that, but now they knew, and they would never forget. 3 weeks after the incident at the gas station, the Iron Horsemen came back. Dana heard them before she saw them. She was in the kitchen on a Saturday morning, making pancakes while Lily watched cartoons in the living room, when the rumble of engines drifted through the window. At first she thought it was just traffic on the main road, but the sound grew louder, closer, until it seemed to surround the apartment building like a living thing. Mom? Lily called. What's that noise? Dana wiped her hands on a dish towel and walked to the window. Her breath caught in her throat. The parking lot was filling with motorcycles. Not 20 this time, but more. 50, 60, maybe more. They rolled in from both entrances, engines growling, chrome flashing in the morning sun. Riders in leather jackets dismounted and gathered in loose groups, their breath fogging in the October air. A few of them looked up at the building, scanning the windows, and Dana stepped back instinctively before realizing they couldn't see her through the glare. Mom? Lily had wheeled herself to the living room window, her face pressed close to the glass. They're here. The bikers are here. Dana's heart was pounding. She didn't know what this meant, whether it was good or bad, whether she should be excited or afraid. All she knew was that something was happening, something bigger than a Saturday morning and a stack of half-cooked pancakes. The intercom buzzed. Dana walked to the door and pressed the button. Hello? Mrs. Marsden, it's Shepard. Mind if we come up? She buzzed them in without thinking, then stood in the doorway of the apartment, waiting. She heard boots on the stairs, heavy, unhurried, and then Shepard appeared at the end of the hallway, followed by 2 other men she recognized from the gas station. One of them was Tiny, the young man with the tattooed arms who had filled her gas tank. Morning, Shepard said as he approached. Sorry to show up unannounced. We tried calling, but the line was busy. Dana glanced at the phone on the wall. The receiver was slightly off the hook. Lily must have knocked it when she was reaching for something. I'm sorry. Come in, please. They filed into the small apartment, their presence making the space feel even smaller. Shepard looked around at the worn furniture, the water stain on the ceiling, the second-hand TV playing cartoons, and his expression gave nothing away. But Dana saw something flicker in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. Lily wheeled herself into the living room, still wearing the leather jacket she'd barely taken off since it arrived. Her face lit up when she saw Shepard. You came back, she said. Told you we would. Shepard crouched down to her level, the way he had at the gas station. "How you doing?" "Lily?" "Good. I wear the jacket every day, even to school." "That right?" He smiled. "What do the other kids think?" "They think it's cool. Marcy wants one too, but I told her you have to earn it." Shepard laughed, a real laugh, warm and surprised. "That's exactly right." He stood and turned to Dana. "Mrs. Marsden, the reason we're here, we've been talking, me and the brothers, about you and Lily, about your situation." Dana felt her defenses rise. "Our situation is fine. We're managing." "I know you are. That's not what I mean." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "We do a ride every year. First Saturday of October. It's a charity thing. We raise money for families with disabled kids, medical bills, equipment, home modifications, whatever they need." Dana's throat tightened. She knew where this was going, and she didn't know how to feel about it. "This year," Shepard continued, "we'd like you and Lily to be our guests of honor. The ride starts in town at the VFW Hall and ends at the fairgrounds about 30 miles out. There's a picnic after, games for the kids, that sort of thing. We'd like Lily to lead the ride, up front, with me." Lily's eyes went wide. "Lead the ride? Like at the front of all the motorcycles?" "That's right. We've got a sidecar rigged up special. Room for you and your chair both. You'd be right there with us leading the way." Dana opened her mouth to say no, to say they couldn't accept charity, couldn't be the center of attention, couldn't let themselves be pitied or patronized or turned into a spectacle. But before she could speak, she looked at Lily. Her daughter's face was transformed. The careful guardedness that had become her default expression was gone, replaced by something Dana hadn't seen in years. Joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. "Can we, Mom?" Lily asked. "Please." Dana looked at Shepard, then at Tiny and the other biker standing quietly by the door. She looked at the water stain on the ceiling and the secondhand TV and the stack of medical bills on the kitchen counter that she'd been trying not to think about. She looked at the jacket her daughter wore like armor, the patch on the back that said, "Honorary Member." "Okay," she said. Her voice cracked on the word. "Okay, we'll do it." Lily let out a sound that was half laugh, half shriek, and Dana found herself laughing too, blinking back tears she didn't want to explain. Shepard smiled and reached out to shake her hand. "Thank you," he said. "This means a lot, to all of us." "Why?" Dana asked. She couldn't help it. She needed to understand. "Why does this mean so much to you? You don't know us. You don't owe us anything." Shepard was quiet for a moment. The room felt very still. "I told you about my daughter," he said finally. "Ellie. She was in a wheelchair too, last 2 years of her life. Spinal injury from the accident. She hated it at first. Hated being different. Hated the stairs. Hated feeling like she was a burden." He paused. "But then she found her people. Kids like her. Adults who understood. She found a community that saw her for who she was, not what she couldn't do. And that changed everything. She was happy, Mrs. Marsden. Really happy. Even at the end." He looked at Lily, and his eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. "After she died, I made it my mission to give other kids what she had, a community, a family, people who see them and say, 'You belong here.' That's what the ride is about. That's what all of it is about." He turned back to Dana. "Lily's got the same fire Ellie had. I saw it that day at the gas station. And I want her to know, I want you both to know, that you're not alone, that there are people in this world who will stand with you no matter what." Dana couldn't speak. She nodded, her throat too tight for words. Shepard reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "One more thing. This is a list of what the ride raised last year. Medical equipment, home modifications, therapy costs. We covered all of it for 12 families." He handed her the paper. "This year, you're on the list. Whatever you need, whatever Lily needs, you let us know. It's taken care of." Dana unfolded the paper with trembling hands. The numbers blurred in front of her eyes. She saw line items for wheelchair ramps and physical therapy and vehicle modifications, each one followed by a dollar amount that would have taken her years to save. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything." Shepard put a hand on her shoulder, a brief touch, firm and reassuring. "Just show up next Saturday, wear something warm, and let Lily have her moment." He headed for the door, Tiny and the other biker falling in behind him. At the threshold, he turned back. "One more thing," he said. "That man from the gas station. Bradley Vance. Dana stiffened. What about him? He made a donation to the ride this year, largest single contribution we've ever received. Shepard's mouth curved into a smile that held no warmth. Seems he had a change of heart about supporting disabled kids. Funny how that works. He tipped an imaginary hat and walked out, his boots echoing on the stairs. Dana stood in the doorway, listening to the engines roar to life in the parking lot below. One by one, the motorcycles pulled out, a river of chrome and leather flowing back toward the highway. The sound faded slowly, replaced by the ordinary noises of the apartment building, a dog barking, a door slamming, someone's TV playing too loud. She closed the door and turned to find Lily watching her. "Mom," Lily said, "are you okay?" Dana walked over and knelt beside her daughter's wheelchair. She took Lily's hands in her own and held them tight. "Yeah, baby," she said. "I'm okay. I'm better than okay." Lily smiled, that bright, fierce smile that had gotten them through 6 years of hardship and heartache and strangers who didn't understand. "Me too," she said. Outside, the October sun climbed higher in the sky, burning off the morning chill. Somewhere on the highway, 60 motorcycles rumbled toward home, carrying with them the promise of a ride, a community, a family. And in a small apartment on the edge of town, a mother and daughter began to plan for the first Saturday of October. They had a parade to lead. The first Saturday of October dawned clear and cold, the sky a hard blue that stretched from horizon to horizon without a single cloud to break it. Dana woke before the alarm, her stomach tight with nerves, and lay in bed listening to the silence of the apartment. In a few hours, everything would change. She wasn't sure if she was ready. Lily, on the other hand, had been ready for days. She was already awake when Dana came into her room, sitting up in bed with the leather jacket laid out beside her. She'd polished the patch the night before, rubbing it with a soft cloth until the gold embroidery gleamed. Now she ran her fingers over it one more time, tracing the horseman and his shepherd's crook. "Morning, baby," Dana said. "How'd you sleep?" "I didn't, really." Lily looked up, and her eyes were bright with excitement. "I kept thinking about the ride, about being at the front, about all those people." Dana sat on the edge of the bed and smoothed her daughter's hair. "You nervous?" "A little." Lily paused. "But mostly I'm excited. Is that weird?" "No, sweetheart, that's exactly right." They ate breakfast together, eggs and toast, comfort food for a day that felt anything but ordinary, and then Dana helped Lily get dressed. The jacket went on last, zipped up over a warm sweater, the patch displayed proudly on her back. Dana stepped back to look at her daughter, and her breath caught. Lily looked different. Not just the jacket, though that was part of it. It was the way she held herself, the way her chin lifted and her shoulders squared, the way she met Dana's eyes without a trace of the uncertainty that had haunted her for so long. She looked like a warrior. She looked like someone who belonged. "Ready?" Dana asked. "Ready." They drove to the VFW hall on the edge of town, where the ride was set to begin. The parking lot was already full when they arrived, motorcycles lined up in neat rows, riders gathered in groups, drinking coffee from paper cups and stamping their feet against the cold. A banner stretched across the front of the building. Iron Horseman Annual Charity Ride, riding for kids who can't. Dana parked at the edge of the lot and got out to retrieve Lily's wheelchair. As she unfolded it and helped her daughter transfer from the car, she became aware of eyes turning toward them. Dozens of faces, watching, waiting. Then someone started to clap. It spread through the crowd like a wave, one person, then 10, then 100, until the entire parking lot was filled with applause. Riders whistled and cheered. Someone shouted Lily's name, and through it all, Lily sat in her wheelchair with her leather jacket and her polished patch, her face flushed and her eyes shining with tears she refused to let fall. Shepard appeared from the crowd, walking toward them, with a smile that softened his weathered face. "There she is," he said, "the guest of honor." "I didn't know there would be so many people," Lily said, her voice small with wonder. 212 riders, biggest turnout we've ever had. Shepard crouched down beside her wheelchair. "They're all here for you, Lily, every single one of them." He stood and gestured toward the front of the formation, where a motorcycle with a sidecar waited. The sidecar was customized, lower than usual, with a ramp at the back and straps to secure a wheelchair. It had been painted black to match the bike, with a small Iron Horseman logo on the side. "Your chariot awaits," Shepard said. Dana helped Lily wheel up the ramp and settle into the sidecar. Straps secured the wheelchair in place, and a thick blanket was tucked around Lily's legs to keep her warm. When everything was ready, Shepard swung a leg over the motorcycle and looked back at his passenger. "Comfortable?" Lily nodded, her hands gripping the sides of the sidecar. "Then let's ride." The engine roared to life beneath them. Behind them, 200 other engines answered, a chorus of thunder that shook the ground and rattled the windows of the VFW hall. Dana stood at the edge of the parking lot, her hand pressed to her chest, watching as the formation began to move. Shepard's bike led the way, pulling out onto the main road with Lily at his side. Behind them came the other riders, 2 and 3 abreast, a river of chrome and leather flowing through the streets of the small town. People lined the sidewalks to watch, families with children, old men in lawn chairs, teenagers with their phones out recording everything. They waved and cheered as the motorcycles passed, and Lily waved back, her arm moving in a steady arc, her smile so wide it seemed to fill her entire face. Dana followed in the car, staying far enough back to watch, but close enough to feel part of it. She couldn't stop crying. She didn't even try. The ride wound through town and out into the countryside, past farms and fields and forests just beginning to turn gold and red with autumn. The sun climbed higher, burning off the morning chill, and the sky stayed that perfect, impossible blue. For 30 miles, the motorcycles rolled on, their engines a constant thunder, their riders united in purpose and pride. At the fairgrounds, the formation came to a stop. Riders dismounted and gathered around as Shepard helped Lily down from the sidecar. She was wheeled to a small stage that had been set up near the picnic area, where a microphone waited. Shepard climbed the stage and raised his hand for silence. The crowd, riders, families, volunteers, curious onlookers, fell quiet. "Every year," he said, his voice carrying across the fairgrounds, "we do this ride to remind ourselves what matters. Not the bikes, not the leather, not the patches on our backs. What matters is family. What matters is community. What matters is showing up for the people who need us." He paused and looked down at Lily, sitting at the edge of the stage in her wheelchair. "This year, we have a special guest. A lot of you have heard her story by now. A few weeks ago, a man tried to make her feel small. He mocked her, insulted her, tried to tear her down because of something she couldn't control. But Lily didn't let him win. She stood her ground. She looked him in the eye and told him the truth about himself." Shepard smiled. "And then 20 of our brothers showed up and reminded that man that cruelty has consequences." A cheer went up from the crowd. Lily ducked her head, embarrassed, but she was smiling. "Lily," Shepard continued, "you showed more courage that day than most people show in a lifetime. You reminded all of us why we do what we do. And for that, we want to say thank you." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. "This is from the ride, from every person who donated, every rider who showed up, every member of this family who wanted to help. It's yours, Lily, for whatever you need, equipment, therapy, modifications to your home, whatever makes your life a little easier." He handed her the envelope. Lily took it with trembling hands. "How much is it?" she whispered. "Enough," Shepard said. "Enough to make a difference." Lily looked at the envelope, then at her mother standing at the edge of the crowd, then at the 200 faces watching her with warmth and pride, and something that looked like love. She lifted her chin the way she had that day at the gas station. "Thank you," she said, and her voice didn't waver. "Not just for the money, for everything, for showing me that I'm not alone, for showing my mom that we have people who care about us." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was stronger. "That man at the gas station wanted me to feel like I was less than everyone else. He wanted me to believe that my wheelchair made me different, made me wrong, but he was the one who was wrong. Because being different isn't bad, it's just different. And different can be pretty amazing if you let it." The crowd erupted in applause. Dana pressed her hands to her face, sobbing openly now, not caring who saw. Riders whistled and stomped their feet. Someone started a chant, "Lily, Lily, Lily," and it spread through the fairgrounds until her name seemed to echo off the sky itself. Shepard lifted Lily from her wheelchair and set her on his shoulders so she could see the whole crowd. She raised her arms like a champion, her leather jacket gleaming in the sunlight, her face radiant with joy. And in that moment, Dana understood. This wasn't charity. This wasn't pity. This was something else entirely, something deeper and more powerful. It was a community choosing to embrace a little girl who had been knocked down by life and refused to stay down. It was strangers becoming family because they recognized something in her that mattered. It was the world, for once, being exactly as kind as it should be. The picnic lasted until late afternoon. There were games and music and more food than anyone could eat. Lily met the other children the ride had helped over the years, kids in wheelchairs and braces and walkers, kids who had been through surgeries and therapies and struggles Dana couldn't imagine. They gathered around Lily like she was one of them, because she was. They traded stories and laughed and competed to see who could do the best wheelies. When the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the riders started their bikes for the journey home. They left in small groups, waving goodbye, engines rumbling off into the distance. Shepard was one of the last to go. He found Dana and Lily by their car, loading the wheelchair into the trunk. "Thank you," Dana said. "I've said it 100 times, but I don't know how else to say it." Shepard shook his head. "You don't have to thank me. This is what we do." He looked at Lily. "You did good up there, kid. Really good." "I meant what I said," Lily replied. "Every word." "I know you did. That's why it mattered." He reached out and ruffled her hair, a gesture so casual and fatherly that Dana felt her heart clench. "You keep being stubborn, Lily Marsden. You keep being brave. And whenever you need us, we'll be there. That's a promise." He walked to his motorcycle, swung a leg over, and kicked the engine to life. He raised a hand in farewell, and then he was gone, his tail light disappearing down the road as the last light faded from the sky. Dana and Lily drove home in silence, but it wasn't an empty silence. It was full of everything that had happened, everything that had changed, everything that lay ahead. When they pulled into the parking lot of their apartment building, Lily spoke. "Mom?" "Yeah, baby? I think I want to be like them when I grow up. The Iron Horsemen. I want to help people the way they helped us." Dana turned off the engine and looked at her daughter, at the leather jacket, at the patch, at the fierce light in her eyes that no amount of cruelty could ever extinguish. "I think you already are, sweetheart," she said. "I think you already are." They went inside together, into the small apartment that didn't feel quite so small anymore. The envelope from the ride sat on the kitchen counter, unopened, a promise of better days to come. The water stain on the ceiling was still there, and the bills were still piled on the counter, and the world outside was still hard and complicated and full of people like Bradley Vance. But inside these walls there was warmth, there was love, there was the unshakable knowledge that they were not alone. And that was enough. That was everything. Lily fell asleep that night with the leather jacket hanging on her bedpost, close enough to touch. She dreamed of motorcycles and open roads and the sound of 200 engines carrying her name into the sky. And somewhere out in the darkness, on highways that stretched from coast to coast, the Iron Horsemen rode on, watching, waiting, ready to answer the next call. Because that's what family did. They showed up.